Good evening, everyone. For those of you who are here for the Hennepin County Attorney's Office UT Visa Policy Kickoff event, welcome. For everyone else who may have stumbled in, you're welcome as well. We're really excited to talk today about the very important crime fighting tool that supports our victims in our community, UNT Visas. So thank you so much for being here today. I'll just give a quick agenda of the program. We're going to have opening remarks by the county attorney and council member Jason Chavez, who's here today. We're then going to be introducing you to some of our panelists. Each will provide a little summary of what they do and how their work intersects with UT Visa and victim supports. And then at the end of those presentations, we'll have a question and answer session. So if you do have questions about the policy or the process, please save those till the end. We'll set up a microphone over here and we'll just ask people to come on over and ask your question. So without further ado, I'm pleased to present and introduce County Attorney Mary Moriarty.
Welcome. This is so exciting today, and the energy here is just wonderful. And I'm so thankful for all of you being here. We had a press conference a week ago to talk about our brand new policy, and that was to give people an opportunity to get here, to participate in this, but this is an ongoing effort. One of the first things I want to do is thank Amber Grealis for her help in coordinating this event with the Midtown Global Market. This is a wonderful location, right? So I came into office a year ago in January, and I knew I wanted to change the office's approach to immigration, including UNT visas, but I wasn't a subject matter expert. But I knew we had people in the office who were, like Eder Castillo, or that's Travis, and Eder Castillo is right behind me. And I said to them, go out and create your dream UNT visa policy. And they spent a lot of work on it, and they came back with a wonderful policy. One of the things to know is that this Congress did pass this UNT visa legislation many, many years ago, but the county attorney's office, before I got here, put up barriers that were not required that made it more difficult for people to get UNT visas. And so this is a new policy. Congress's act is not new, but this is a new approach. It's a new approach that reflects the fact that we value our immigrant community members and neighbors. So this policy reflects that. It reflects that we want to be proactive. We want to help people get status so that they can be here, especially if they are harmed by a crime. We know that there are barriers to reporting, and we know that our immigrant community members are often targeted by people for crimes because people know they are less likely to report crimes because they're vulnerable and they may be afraid of deportation and other things. So we know that. So this is about public safety. It's about valuing our immigrant community members, and it's about public safety because we want people who've been harmed to feel that they can come forward and cooperate and help us bring that person to accountability. So that's what this is about. There's a woman named Leslie Orloff, who's a UNT visa expert and the co-author of the federal law that created the UT visas. She has reviewed this policy created by our staff, and she has confirmed that this policy is a model for the rest of the country. In fact, just today, I got an email invitation from a group to come to New York to talk about this policy because it is groundbreaking and it is a model policy for the rest of the country. So this is just one of a series of events that we are having in the community, and Eder Castillo will be leading those efforts to make sure that we are out in the community and making sure that people understand what is available to them. I just want you to know, as Hennepin County Attorney, we are in this for the long haul. We care about you. We care about making all of our immigrant neighbors feel welcome in our community. We care. We want you not to be victimized, but if you are, we care and we want to help you go through that process. So thank you for coming here today. I want to pass the mic over to your council member, Jason Chavez.
I'll be brief. Hi, everyone. My name is Jason Chavez. I want to first thank Hennepin County Attorney Mary Moriarty for bringing us all together and for hosting this incredible event, along with her staff and everybody here. Like I said, my name is Jason Chavez. I have the honor and privilege of representing Ward 9 on the Minneapolis City Council, one of the most racially diverse wards in the entire city of Minneapolis. It's home to a big immigrant population, a place where many people speak many different languages, and who oftentimes feel unheard by our government here in this country. And the rollout of this policy is a game changer. It is gonna make sure that our immigrants in Minneapolis and across the county are gonna feel more welcomed by government. And for that, it is something that I am very thankful for. I'm personally the son of Mexican immigrants, and knowing that the Hennepin County Attorney's Office is now going to be having this policy makes my own family, my residents, the people in this city feel more welcomed. And for that, like I said earlier, I am very thankful for the Hennepin County Attorney's Office and their work with community partners. This was a policy that was done with her office along with community partners, and that is how policy should be made. It's with hearing from people on the ground that are doing this work. And I'm just very thankful to be here today. I guess I'll be a part of the panel for a little bit, but this is a policy that's going to change the lives of many residents here across the county. Thank you.
So I want to introduce the moderator for our panel. That is Claire Deagle. When I came into office, we created an entirely new division called Professional Standards. And Claire is the director of that division, and she has had a lot of work to do. She is working on training, comprehensive training for the entire office. She works on Brady. She oversees that. She oversees a lot of different elements and things that we're trying to do, including UNT visa. So she will be moderating our panel tonight. Please welcome Claire Deagle.
Thank you, Mary. So I'm going to take a seat while moderating tonight. But first, I'm going to present our panelists today. So to Mary's right here, we have Eder Castillo. He is Assistant County Attorney with the office, who is our subject matter expert on UNT visas. He also leads our UNT visa review process and review team. Next to Eder, we have Deanna Smith. Deanna is the director of our DASC, Domestic Abuse Service Center in Hennepin County. Next to her, we have Senior Attorney Lenore Miliburgity of the Immigrant Law Center of Minnesota, another really well-known and respected subject matter expert in immigration law. We're so pleased to have you here with us, Lenore. And then we have Travis Sigafus, who is a victim witness advocate and supervisor at the Hennepin County Attorney's Office, who's worked extremely closely with Eder on this policy and this process. So wanted to start out with Ms. Smith. Deanna, would you be able to tell us more about DASC and the services that it provides?
Thank you, Claire, and thank you all for joining us this evening. As Claire stated, my name is Deanna Smith, and I currently serve as the director of the Domestic Abuse Service Center, frequently referred to as DASC. So what do we do at the Domestic Abuse Service Center? Great question. The easiest way to think about it is the Domestic Abuse Service Center really serves as a place where victims of domestic violence can receive multiple services in one centralized location, including working with an advocate, filing for orders for protection, connecting with the prosecution team, and working with pro bono attorneys for legal consultation and representation. In addition, individuals can work with staff at DASC to safety plan for crisis support, as well as for shelter, locating housing, and securing financial assistance, and more.
So what can someone coming to desk expect in terms of just walking into the office? And if you could say where it's located as well.
Sure, absolutely. So DAS is governed by the Hennepin County Attorney's Office, and we are located on the lower level of the government center. Individuals can expect cultural specific and trauma informed advocacy when they work with staff at the center. I cannot share with you how important it is for a victim to have the option to work with somebody who either looks like them, speaks their language, and or understands the cultural barriers that they may face, because that looks different for each and every one of us. Multilingual advocacy is also offered at the center. And currently, we have advocates that speak English, Somali, Spanish, Hmong, Nepali, Hindi, and Newari. To offer these services, we contract with our community partners, some of which are here today, including Esperanza United, Asian Women United, the Division of Indian Work, SIWA, and the Domestic Abuse Project. At DASK, we really do believe in equal access to justice and that everybody has the right to feel safe, valued, and heard.
Deanna, can someone report domestic abuse to desk without initiating a criminal case, or does there already have to be a criminal case that's been charged?
You absolutely can report domestic violence without initiating a criminal case. And how you can do so is in a few ways. The first is in submitting a petition to obtain an order for protection. The second is to work with an advocate to discuss the options and resources that are available to you. An order for protection is essentially a civil document that you are asking for certain protections to prevent an abuser from contacting you, creating harm, threatening you, etc., just to name a few. That criminal order would only become that civil order would only become criminal if there was a violation of the order for protection and the police were called and responded, and that could potentially initiate a criminal case.
Thank you, Deanna. Joining us on stage, everyone, is retired Minneapolis Police Commander Gio Velez. So welcome. Thank you, Gio, for joining us here today. Are you ready for some questions? Okay, wonderful. So could you talk about the difference between local police and Immigration and Customs Enforcement, or ICE, and to what extent they work together?
Sure. Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you so much for inviting me. My name is Gio Velez, and I spent about 30 years working for the city of Minneapolis. The last 5 years, I worked as a police commander, and I oversaw the U visa program. I just want to say I want to congratulate the county attorney's office in developing this powerful tool. This is a tool to reduce crime and build trust at the same time. So congratulations. And the question was, what's the difference between
Local police and ICE, so folks have an understanding of the two different agencies and the role.
Sure, and I can only speak about what we did in Minneapolis. In the city of Minneapolis, we had an ordinance that prohibited the Minneapolis Police Department from enforcing federal immigration. We do not do that. When we respond to any type of 911 calls, we do not ask community members, we do not ask survivors, what is your immigration status? So that was something that it was in the last thing that we care for was the immigration status. As to ICE officers, they have the power to inquire about immigration status. Minneapolis Police Department, when I was working there, they will not, and they do not inquire about the immigration status.
And why is it important? Why is that ordinance important to the work that MPD does?
Sure, and I don't have to tell you, at a time when we had lost trust and we're trying to rebuild trust, research will show you, and we don't have to do research. You can go to anywhere in the community and just imagine yourself being a victim of a crime and not having a place where you can go and report a crime. That have to be frustrated. That's going to drive us to live into the shadows. And think about it. Every community member wants to have a safer neighborhoods. I don't mean to deviate, but I just completed my PhD, and I did my dissertation talks about Latinos' perception of the Minneapolis police. I interviewed 33 community members, and every community member, they wanted a safer neighborhood. We all want safe neighborhoods.
Congratulations on completing the PhD.
Thank you,
That's
thank you.
amazing. It must feel great. I do have a couple more questions for you, just about working with police if a victim comes in, working with police if someone isn't comfortable speaking English and reporting a crime. Should they bring a family member to interpret? What are some best practices that MPD had?
So I want to say that I'm very proud when I worked for the police department. I had the support from the chief of police, Chief Harteau, Chief Medaria Redondo, and the mayor of Minneapolis. They were champions in the U visa. They were champions in building trust with immigrant communities. One thing, and also we are looked as a best practice around the nation. The city of Minneapolis is looked right now as a best practice. Yes, one thing that we did is, if we have bilingual officers who speak Spanish, that's a big plus. It's a big plus. In my case, as you can tell, I'm Ecuadorian. I'm originally Ecuadorian. I've been here for the past 45 years. But speaking Spanish opened the doors for a lot of things for me to build trust, because they're going to have to trust you first to report these crimes. They're going to have to trust you so that you can help and navigate through the criminal justice systems. And so speaking Spanish was wonderful. I met victims that, whether they applied for the U visa or not, they were willing to report crimes. They were willing to tell me who are these drug traffickers, who's involved in labor trafficking, who's involved in juvenile trafficking. This tool will build trust. This tool will definitely help law enforcement agencies reduce crime, and communities will be safer.
Thank you so much. So Lenore, could you talk a little bit about the Immigrant Law Center's work in the U visa, T visa space?
Absolutely. At ILCM, we have worked with the U visa since it was created in 2000. So I've been working with the U visa for 24 years. It has been an essential tool because I actually started doing this work before it was created, and I remember when we did not have the humanitarian protections for survivors that we do now. So we consider the U visa and these kinds of steps forward to be huge in making communities safer and helping immigrants feel safer, because virtually every client I've ever talked to has first of all been threatened. If you report, you will be deported. And so often have had so many things they were afraid to report.
Does ILCM provide legal aid to victims to help them with the filing of the petition?
Absolutely. ILCM provides statewide free legal representation to low-income immigrants. And we absolutely focus on humanitarian remedies, U's, T's, and other things. We have 6 offices. I always have to think we've been growing. And we do help from doing the initial evaluation when a person comes to us to see if they have a viable case, to helping get the certification, to then putting together a case.
And could you talk a little bit about the intake process, how someone would contact ILCM to seek that help for a U visa petition?
Absolutely. And I think this also sort of applies to legal aid and other nonprofits. Generally, Minnesota is really fortunate to have a very strong nonprofit legal community that focuses on immigration. And so I want to put that out, that there are a number of wonderful agencies that do this. But we can't help everyone, and it can take some time to get through to us. And so typically what happens is the survivor calls, or an advocate or a friend who's worried about them We have a list of questions which can seem annoying when you're fresh off of a trauma, but it does go to our grant requirements. There are reasons for every question we asked, and everything we ask is completely confidential. Once a person appears to be eligible, they're scheduled for an intake interview with a legal person, and then we decide which cases we can help, which we might refer out to some of our wonderful partner agencies like Mid-Minnesota Legal Assistance or Advocates or Volunteer Lawyers Network.
Wonderful. Thank you so much. So next, I'm going to turn it over to Eder and Travis. Could you describe some of the key features of the Hennepin County Attorney's Office policy and how it may intersect with the work that Lenore and Gio with, or law enforcement generally?
Sure. So first of all, thank you all for being here. A couple of the key features about this policy are, first of all, that it really strips away a lot of obstacles that had been built up over time. So Lenore here knows better than anyone. When this U visa was designed in the year 2000, it was meant to be something that was easily accessible to all victims. Over time, due to perceptions, due to all sorts of things, agencies have put up barriers and barriers and barriers on top of this URT visa. And we believe that this policy that the County Attorney Mary Moriarty is leading on is something groundbreaking. It's something that we're leading the nation on, and we're showing other agencies what's possible when you build trust with immigrant communities. A couple of key features about it are, first of all, who can ask us for a U visa? In the past, it used to be that we would only give out U visas for people who had cases that we were prosecuting. That means that they had come forward, gave a report, were willing to testify, and we were processing it. And even then, we wouldn't give them a U visa until their case ended. Meaning that throughout this whole time that they were putting themselves out there, risking being threatened, being willing to go up and tell a story that's really sensitive, maybe about, a robbery, a sexual assault, all of these investments that victims were putting in, there was no safety net. It was until the very end that they would get something, and we're flipping that completely around. Starting now at the county attorney's office, you can get a U visa or a T visa within 30 days, even if your case is being actively prosecuted. So even if your case is just barely initiating, you can get it within 30 days. On top of that, if you're already in immigration court and you're in removal proceedings, we will certify your U or T visa within 7 days. That's 7, not business days, 7 calendar days. And we actually had a victim who needed a U visa in order to avoid being deported, and we did it in 2 days. So just to give you an idea of what we're capable of when we put our resources into this problem. Another thing around eligibility is that you don't have to have a case with us anymore. So if you have any link to Hennepin County, you can ask us for a U visa. I'll give you some examples. So for example, if you live in Hennepin County, but you were harmed somewhere else in the state, or possibly even in the United States, but you live here, you can ask us for a U visa. You don't need to email, Wisconsin or send something mailed out to another state or another county. This is your home, so you can come to us for that U or T visa. Obviously, if you were harmed here, but you don't live here, you can also ask us for a U or T visa. And if you've used our services, like walked into the Domestic Abuse Service Center where Deanna works, or Deanna leads, you can ask us for a U or T visa. So once you have an attorney, as Lenore pointed out, one way to get an attorney, once you have one, they should make an argument to us as to why we should certify, but we're looking to certify if you're part of our community or have been harmed in our community. So that's just one key pillar. And I'll let Travis describe, maybe trauma-informed helpfulness? Okay.
Hi, everybody. So my name is Travis Igafus, and I'm in our Victim Services Division. And we're really excited to have a policy that really expands how we consider the helpfulness of victims in our cases. And again, before we put up additional obstacles and really expected almost too much of our victims in terms of kind of going above and beyond to help with the prosecution. And so the idea now is really acknowledging the true spirit of the UNT visa programs as intended by Congress, And so that involves really recognizing when people have been helpful in the past or are currently being helpful or are likely to be helpful in the future when it comes to a variety of dimensions of our criminal legal system. And so really trying to do this from a trauma-informed lens and understand why, for example, in the case of domestic violence, why a survivor, after reporting the crime to 911 and maybe providing a statement to law enforcement, why they may not want to participate anymore. And so we can really try to do this trauma-informed holistic review to understand that sometimes a victim not wanting to show up for court isn't something that's unreasonable and that it's really expected under the circumstances. And so with that, we also are no longer considering criminal history of victims. That is something that we looked into before, and that is something that is well researched and investigated by Homeland Security as part of their U visa and T visa application processes. And so that's really not something that was intended for certifying agencies to consider. And so there's much more review that's done at a federal level for applicants when they do submit those petitions to USCIS for consideration. In terms of victim services, we just want to highlight that, as Deanna said, in terms of DASC and just with victim services in general, we have multilingual advocates that speak a number of different languages and are not only in our Domestic Abuse Service Center, but also service our Adult Prosecution Division and also our Youth Prosecution Division. And so we have staff and we try to assign culturally specific advocates to victims in cases as we can to really try to best support language needs and also just to provide that culturally responsive service. And so that is a big part of what we do, and our multilingual advocates are all involved in our review committee that Eder leads, where advocates are able to help speak to the history of helpfulness and to really help Eder and the rest of our review committee understand where this victim is coming from and how we should think about their case in deciding whether or not to certify that U or T visa, which again is only one part of this process, and ultimately an immigration attorney, such as the great folks with Immigrant Law Center or with other partner agencies, are the ones that are going to be doing the more extensive work in terms of putting together a petition that would be submitted to USCIS.
Eder, could you talk about the difference between a U visa petition that goes to the federal government that, if granted, would provide some sort of temporary status, and the certification requests that come to our office?
I'd be happy to. So the way that a U visa works is there's several steps to it. First of all, you're victimized, right? You go through some kind of qualifying crime. Those qualifying crimes, there's 16 of them. And just so you know, we interpret those broadly. So even if you suffered a qualifying crime, but we charged it as something else, something less than maybe what you actually suffered, just as an example, a really real example, you still suffered that crime, period. So what's next? Once you suffer a crime, then one of the first steps is to get an immigration attorney. So that's something that Immigrant Law Center can help you with. And then they'll ask us to do something called certifying. And we certify 2 facts. The first fact we certify is that you suffered one of the 16 crimes listed. So we'll look at things that support your case. In a lot of cases, there's police reports. You might even have a criminal case generated, or you might have gone into DASC, where Deanna leads, and you might have put in a report asking for your abuser to be staying away from you. All of those documentations and evidence, your affidavit, your story matters. Sometimes all you have is your story. That matters too. So we look at those things to determine, did you suffer a qualifying crime? The second thing we look at was your helpfulness. Travis already described that we are taking a trauma-informed approach to helpfulness. What does that mean? That means that we know that victims are not always able to help to the full capacity that we would like them to. And sometimes that's for their own safety. And as part of their safety plan, maybe they have to stop cooperating because they fear their own lives. So what we look at is any amount of helpfulness. That means even if you put a 911 call and then you said, never mind. But when the cops showed up, you had bruises on your face, right? That means maybe you cooperated all the way to filing a case, but then you stopped. Or maybe you haven't done too much, but you are willing to help. So even if you haven't been helpful, but you're willing to help, that qualifies you for a U visa. So then we certify that, just those 2 basic facts, and we send it back to your immigration attorney, and your immigration attorney puts together a packet, including our certification and all of the things that support you, all of the evidence, and they send it off to USCIS.
Thank you, Eder. How would, just getting down to brass tacks, how would an immigration attorney like Lenore or any of her colleagues submit a request for a certification to our office?
Yeah, so we have a few different options, and they're all equally valid. And so the first is we have an email address that is hopefully easy to remember, and that is visa@hennepin.us. And that is a great way to reach our UNT Visa team. And so we're really asking immigration attorneys or representatives of victims to submit those email requests to us with a signed release of information, and simply state your request in the email with enough information to be able to have us locate that case. And we have further information about that also on our website too as part of our policy. But the Visa at Hennepin is a great way to reach our team, whether it's for inquiries or for actual requests. We also do accept requests by mail. We also do have a voicemail box where folks can call and leave a message in their preferred language, and we will ensure that we're able to review that and be able to follow up in terms of any questions or concerns related to that. And so those are really the options, and we really want to demystify this, and we also really want to avoid sometimes practices that we've seen in the past where we're getting like almost briefs as part of the request and significant amount of like evidence and documents that we really don't need, since we're able to, come to our own determination and review really the two eligibility criteria that are in the scope for a prosecuting office.
And Eder, what is something else folks should know about contacting us about making a request and our disclosure requirements that there is an open case?
So there's a reason that we ask for very little information when you make a request. All that we want is to be able to identify who you are and what your case is. So sometimes just telling us just a tiny bit of information, a case number, some facts, maybe one piece of evidence that you need to show us to support your request is all that we ask for. That's for several reasons. One is to keep your costs down. If you have a private immigration attorney, we don't want your attorney doing a ton of work that's not necessary. We want to make sure that this is accessible and affordable for you. The other reason is also important, which is that if there is a criminal case open, or if there will be a criminal case open, everything you submit to us might be disclosed to the defendant as part of a law or a rule, a principle, I guess, called the Brady Rule. That's a constitutional rule, meaning that we have to share that sort of evidence that would benefit a defendant's case with them. That's constitutional law. So we ask for very little in order to not have to disclose a lot. We don't want to disclose your medical documents, for example, from something like a sexual assault exam. We don't want to have to disclose that. We don't want to have to disclose your A numbers or different sort of very personal, private information that's yours. So we ask for very little information for those two reasons. And then before my time is up here, I do want to encourage you before you leave. There's a check-in table at the back that has dark blue folders. Those dark blue folders have one-pager explanations of this policy that make it super easy to understand. We also have full copies of our policy, which I think it's about a 10-page document. So if you're a lawyer, someone who's interested in reading all the details, we've laid it all out for you. We're very transparent, and it's something you can review or show an attorney if you were to make a request.
And we really tried to make the policy user-friendly. So we really are encouraging folks, even if you're not an attorney, to take a look at it so you know your rights and you know the process. Lenore, Eder mentioned hiring a private attorney. Could you talk a little bit about what people may want to look for if they do decide to hire a private attorney to help them with the URT visa process?
Sure, absolutely. I've never been a private attorney, full disclosure, but I know many of them. And once again, in Minnesota, we have an extensive private immigration bar. We've avoided problems that other cities have seen with fraud. Our people tend to be excellent. And so in looking for a private attorney, I would say call around, see who offers free initial consultations. Be very clear as you're deciding to hire someone what the cost will be. Will it be hourly? Will there be a flat fee? Will that include future work cards? Because if at some point down the road you're not able to pay, the private attorney will probably have no choice but to step out of the case. And so it's really good to be very clear what the contract will cover before you start. And also, just generally, as the U is becoming a bit more popular, again, with the greater number of temporary work cards, we are seeing more scams nationwide. So I would encourage people to hire attorneys where you live, because like I just saw a YouTube video from a California attorney who said the great news about the U was that there was now no limit on how many the government could grant every year. So rush out and apply. And so those scams are growing, and it is worth being careful.
So following off that, so there is a cap for the U visas, unfortunately, right? Could you talk a little bit about what the timeline looks like from someone submitting a petition to actually receiving some temporary status?
Yeah, let's talk about the temporary status. That's the good news. So basically, when we put together a U case, and there is a 6-month clock that starts running once we get this wonderful certification, and then within about 30 days, the USCIS issues receipts, and then they a few months after that, they do fingerprints because they are going to check the background, both criminal and immigration, for every applicant. And then at some point after that, they will review the application itself for the U, the certification, and the fingerprints, and that's really, and the personal declaration explaining the crime. And if that all seems to fit what the law requires, they will issue what's called a bona fide determination and a 4-year renewable card. Now, a year ago, it was taking about 5 years to get to the temporary card, but USCIS last year opened what's called the Heart Center. And the first focus of the Heart Center is to issue the temporary cards more quickly. So we are down now to about a 3-year wait, with the promise that it will get shorter.
Thank you, Lenore. So we've talked about how folks can reach out to law enforcement, reach out to ILCM, reach out to us. Deanna, can someone request a U visa or help with a certification through DASC, and how does that process work?
They absolutely can. So you can work with an advocate at the Domestic Abuse Service Center, and we cannot ask, and we will not ask, what your status is. However, you can certainly share it with us. And from there, we will go ahead and contact our team here and connect you with those individuals.
Thank you so much. So we are just about at time for the Q&A. I did want to ask one more question of kind of any of you who want to jump in here, but what are important pieces of information when reporting something to the police that should be included if someone wants to make sure that they could be eligible for a U visa certification? So Gio, you've looked at a lot of those to make that determination. If you want to start us off.
Sorry, thank you.
Yeah, thanks for reminding me. I think I certify over maybe 3,000 or 4,000 certifications. So no, that's great questions. And I'm glad that the county attorney recognized that this service have to be victim-centered, because when you're the victim of the crime, you are going involved in trauma. You forget things. So as much as you can, one of the things that I'll say is the victim will call 911. And the victim was probably hit in the head with a hammer, pistol whip, and will not remember anything. So the victim will tell the police officer, I don't remember. I think I was just pickpocketed. And after a few hours, the victim will have to go to the hospital with broken bones. So one thing, try to remember as much as possible. A lot of the victims also, they did a lot of good police work. They'll remember cell phone numbers that they use, and I was able to track down, pull the voicemails, recording of calls made to 911. They will remember the squad number, the time, the date, and I will do some follow-up. I will pull the body-worn cameras. Police officers wear body-worn cameras. I'll be able to pull that. Also, for victims who have limited understanding of English, ask the law enforcement to get you a Spanish-speaking officer. That's your right. We don't charge for that. The police officers do not charge. I retired a long time ago, so I'm not a police officer anymore. But a request a translator, request somebody who speaks your language. That's key.
Thank you. Anyone else? Yeah.
I just wanted to add briefly that to the extent possible, even though of course it's under really difficult circumstances, to the extent that you can try to provide good contact information to law enforcement, that information goes into police reports that then, if prosecuted or submitted to our office for a charging consideration, that's the information that we're working with. And so having information about language preferences and just how to reach folks is so incredibly important, especially when a case comes to us for prosecution.
Also, I think we have to focus on what we know about domestic violence when and if you are reporting a case to the police. Oftentimes, officers are responding, and it is not to an isolated incident. We know that domestic violence is a pattern crime and that it is likely to happen again. And oftentimes, officers will ask what's called lethality questions. And it can be helpful should you feel comfortable. You do not have to, but should you feel comfortable to share what you have endured and what you have experienced.
And I would also advise that you ensure that your crime is described as it happened to its full extent. So if you feel like there's missing details, maybe you were punched and cut. If it just says you were punched, ensure it says you were cut. Ensure that that crime is fully described and that everything that you've suffered mentally, physically, emotionally is described well in that police report. Aside from that, also ensure that if you were helpful to the police, that's described well too. If you provided your child to give an interview, or if you went to the hospital to get an exam, all of that is you putting in work to ensure that we can keep people safe. So you deserve to have that recorded. And if you review a police report, I believe you could reach out to the police if there's errors or if there's something you want to add. Remember this, the government works for you, right? You don't work for the government. We work for you, and so if you need something from us, we're supposed to be serving you, and that's the goal under this policy.
We spent a lot of time talking about Minneapolis. We are in Minneapolis, but our team did a tour. We had several meetings with police chiefs from all over Hennepin County to talk about this process, and did volunteer to help them with certifications if they got us the information. And they were very enthusiastic overall about that. So I just wanted to say, obviously crime isn't, you may go to another city and this is still available to you. So I just wanted to add that.
Thank you. We're at the time where we can open up for questions. If anyone has questions, Nikki Slick, who's another key piece of our UT Visa team, we love you, Nikki, is here to help with the microphone. Or do we want to put it on this stand for a line? And it looks like we have some questions over here. Yeah, if you could just come, if you wouldn't mind coming up. If you're not able to do that, then we can ask Nikki to bring you the mic.
Hello, I'm Lacey. I'm the owner of TC Nighthawks. We are an anti-theft and car recovery agency here in Minneapolis. Starting on April 1st, we will have an extension set up specifically for Hispanic-speaking families with 3 advocates right now. It will be to report crimes and anything car-related, but I'd like to work with Mary to possibly move that further to domestic abuse and to other crimes. One thing that we found out working with our community is there's a big disconnect between the Hispanic community and law enforcement. There's a language barrier, but also the Hispanic community feels as they're often victimized because of their immigration status. Their cars are getting stolen. A lot of these families, they are roofers and construction crews. If all your tools are gone, there goes your family's food. There goes your rent money. So we've actually set up a line specifically so we can be a liaison between the police and the victims.
Thank you.
And that will be on our 800 number, and the extension is 808, starting April 1st.
Thank you. If you want to go speak with Jen White in the pink blazer, she can.
Yes.
Oh, you already did. Okay, just
I
wanted
think
to
so.
make
Mary
sure.
got me, yeah.
Oh, good.
Got it.
Okay, perfect. Thank
All
you
right,
so
thank you.
much. Thank you. Any questions? Yes, if you wouldn't mind coming up.
Hello, thank you for the opportunity to meet with you today. I have a question for Lenore. Lenore, when you said you work with people and get them a temporary card, what did you mean? Did you mean temporary employment authorization or?
Yes, before a person is actually approved for U status, they're given a bona fide determination if their packet was complete, and they get a work card that's valid for 4 years and a social security number, and that work card is renewable while the U application is pending.
Right, okay, thank you very much, I appreciate it.
Y si hablan español, alguna otra pregunta también. Any other questions? ¿Preguntas? Sí, puedes pasar. Can you come forward?
And they were denied or they were scared. No, I have to tell the name of the person. No, if the person who is abusing me finds out he can do something and they prefer not to, can they apply again or try to reapply if they were not given all the information because they were afraid of?
Okay, so your question is if they did apply for a U visa and they were denied a U visa?
Yeah, let's say they don't get even the certification because it's like, oh, you don't qualify
okay.
for,
I see.
But they really don't tell the full story because they were afraid that something can happen to them.
Yeah, so I can answer one version of that, which is what if you were denied a certification? If you're eligible for a certification with our office, there is no time limit for you to ask for that. I'll give you an example. We recently certified a case that was about 24 years old. So this was a crime that happened about 24 years ago. We certified last year. So that's just one example. I doubt we'll see too many cases older than that. But if you have asked for a certification in the past, were denied, yes, please ask for it again. If you were denied a U visa, I'll pass that over to Lenore. I don't know if there's any opportunities.
Well, a person can appeal a denied U visa, but the other thing it would be to refile in the kind of the thing that you're describing in that situation. The problem, of course, would be you get to the back of the line and have to start over, but a person can always apply again.
Looks like we have another question over here.
Sorry.
No, not at all.
Could be like two questions. One, based on what you just respond to the previous question, so can be retroactive a petition for a Visa U at this time since you guys open again to the opportunity for Visa U for any other case that was denied in the past?
You want to answer, Claire? Okay. So yes, it is retroactive.
They can start it again with the same case number that was at the report, the police report that was previously made and that was denied because they say that was not strong enough in that time. And now, based on what I just heard, seems like I will qualify highly. So can they reopen it?
So for a certification, when someone asks us for a certification, we as an agency, we never check our database to see, did we ever deny this person? We give your request a fresh look. So you should apply if you were denied in the past. We actually don't check. And if you were denied by an agency that wasn't us, we wouldn't even be able to find out likely unless you informed us of that.
Okay.
So if you qualify, you qualify. And the Department of Homeland Security designed it that way so that there was never a statute of limitations, meaning that if you want to come forward at this point, you can.
Okay, and the next one is, based on what I just hear, this is open only for Hennepin County. Is that correct?
So that's a great question. The Hennepin County Attorney's Office, this is our certification policy. So other counties, other law enforcement agencies may have different policies, but we are, according to under our policy, we are willing to certify if a victim has been helpful, the qualifying crime is eligible, and there is a link to Hennepin County. So whether maybe someone lives in Hennepin County or the crime occurred in Hennepin County, there needs to be some link. But that's the only restriction.
It's any way that they can do partnership with the other counties to do something similar like you, because it's a lot of things that happens in Anoka County, Washington County, and in other counties that there's a lot of Latinos now living there that they need this support. How they can do a partnership with another counties, how that will work, how we can help.
So County Attorney Mary Moriarty's vision is to be influential in this space. That's why we're taking a big leap and leading on this policy, is because we want other agencies to see what's possible here in Hennepin County in terms of public safety for the immigrant and refugee communities. And so, as you can see, there are cameras here. Other agencies are going to hear about this. They'll know what we're doing. We've already had agencies reach out and say, let's look at your policy. We want to see it. And I tell them, copy and paste it if you want. We would love for other agencies to take this model and apply it where they are.
Is any suggestions that you say, hey, you can go and apply or suggest to this person directly or this office in this, for example, Anoka County is the closest that I can think. To say, hey, you can go to this person, to this organization, and suggest, say that you hear it, you see it in Hennepin, and you want something in your county, where we can go.
So there are 87 different elected county attorneys in Minnesota. I am one of those. And so my suggestion is that people in that community or people who have interest in this talk to the county attorney in that county and tell them that this is something your community wants. I mean, we certainly have meetings statewide, and I am certainly talking to other county attorneys, but it really, I think, comes down to the people who elect them in their community. What do you want? And so I think community needs to make their voices heard to those particular elected county attorneys and say, hey, this is what we want.
Okay, thank you.
En español, ¿ok? Gracias. Estoy en un proceso de visa U con mi hija hace un año.
I started a process of a U visa process with my daughter about a year ago.
Recibí mi reporte policial,
I received my police report,
pero no el de mi hija.
but not the one for my daughter.
Ella es menor de edad
She's a minor,
y nos dicen que hay un tiempo límite para poder recibir esa firma.
and we are told that there's a time limit in order to be able to receive that signature.
¿Dónde podemos acercarnos para recibir esa firma policial
Where can we go to get that signature from a police officer
para que no se vea afectado nuestro proceso de la visa U?
so that our U visa process is not affected? It's not on.
So thank you so much for your question. If you could stay after the Q&A, and we'll try to address it because it's specific to you. We can talk to you about it after, just to ensure that you have privacy in any response.
Okay.
That's okay.
Okay,
Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Okay, I will just maybe end if we don't have any more questions by thanking everyone to be here today. Also wanted to point out that there is a state law that actually requires us to do outreach about U visas, UNT visas. So this is an obligation that we have. We're very fortunate to have in our office someone who is integral in creating that law. Jamal Lundy is here. So this is something that we are doing because it's the right thing to do. It's important to support our immigrant community. It's also important for public safety. So if there are other agencies out there, they have the similar obligation to do this sort of outreach to tell people about this important tool. So with that, I'll leave it to Mary and Councilmember Chavez if you have any final remarks.
Oh, I just want to thank you for coming. And Claire touched on this a little bit. You know, when we're asked why are we doing this, there are really two reasons. One is practical, and that is we want people who are harmed in the community to feel comfortable coming forward and safe coming forward. That's how we make our communities safer. Aside from that, you matter. We care about you. Immigrants are an integral part of our community. We want everyone to feel welcome here, and we want you to know that we care about you. So thank you so much for coming. There's more food over there. Please help yourself.